Hello, it's John, small town, small time bookseller. I'm here with another video. This video is going to be covering the month of May, or at least half of the month of May, and what I sold in May. And because that's pretty much what I do, I sell books on eBay, and I sell some Nada books as well, getting more and more Nada books, and getting into some other interesting things, but I'm mostly selling books on eBay. And when I do that, I'll then come in here and occasionally tell you about them. So I don't do anything else. I don't do garage sale videos. I don't do yard sale videos. I don't do, the GoPros at the Goodwill bins are looking at my hands. The current of life, which had been dammed up in stagnation, has found a breach in the wall and can now feel the waves of humanity outside. Nope. If you're up for something like that, you gotta find another channel. Because all I do is tell you what I sold on eBay. And so we're going to get into that right quickly here. This is going to cover, like I said, May-ish, first half of May, which according to what I wrote down here, and I think I may be wrong, 32 sales. I didn't think I had that many, but it's this many. So we're going to go through them all. And now, as always, I'll start off with the least lucrative to the most lucrative, and I've got some pretty lucrative ones in here, so you want to stick around for that. And you're also going to want to stick around for, I probably will title this video something about literally losing money to the rich and famous, or something like that. So you're going to want to stick around and hear what has befallen the small town, small time bookseller. 'Tis tragic. 'Tis tragic. So, is there anything else we need to get to? Oh, my hat. You like it? Vienna sausages. If you want a little Vienna hat, this can be yours for the very low price of $5. You go on my eBay store, no matter what horrific and astronomical price I've got it listed at. Just tell me you're a viewer and you want it, and offer $5, and I'll sell it to you. Yeah, I'll even put it in a little box. I'll even put it in a twist style storage bag, and then in a box. And I will label that box and send it to you. All of that for $5 plus shipping. All right, we're ready then. So here we go. All right, let's do it. First thing I did sell back in May, I still had some of those Q-Link SIM cards. 3 of those sold for $7.75 each. Then we're moving on from there. So the first one I sold was not a book. It was a hat, in fact. A train, air conditioning, HVAC, air company, mesh, strapback, black hat that says it's hard to stop a train, but not impossible. You just gotta push really hard, and you can do it. Go out and give it a try. I think you should. That sold for $9. And then the next one I sold was a CD. Shamefully selling these CDs. So I found this group of CDs, a whole bunch of them, in the Goodwill bins at some point in the past. And I started listing them. And when I first listed them, somebody commented that I shouldn't be selling things that people can get for free. Well, I had no idea you could get these for free. So I looked them up, and yeah, it's this Mary Foundation Catholic organization, and you can. But when I looked them up online, not all of them were available. And so I thought, well, some are, some aren't. And so I'm just continuing to sell them, and they don't sell very often, but I did sell one of them. This one was the Mass Explained by Father Larry Richards, and that sold for $9. But every time I sell one, I feel shameful. Just absolutely ashamed for selling them because of that comment I got back then. So the next one was another CD. This one was the Silver Sun Pickups. Brand new. Found this one's factory sealed in the Goodwill bins. For everyone who's new here, that's where I do the majority of my shopping is the Goodwill bins. The ones in Houston, which is nearest where I live, about an hour from here, books are 2 for $1. All media, so records, CDs, DVDs are all 2 for $1. And then other things are by the pound. So, but most of the things I sell on here, I'm getting for about 50 cents each. So then I sold a book. First book of the day was Acid for the Children. That was a memoir by Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. This is actually the second time I've sold this book. So it doesn't sell for a lot. This one was $10.80, but it does sell. So if you see that one, you want a relatively quick sale, you probably pick that one up and sell it. Then we had the Jeppesen Professional Pilot Logbook for all pilots, sold for $12. You got to be logging those flying hours somewhere. You might as well do it in a professional logbook instead of just, on the back of a candy wrapper or something. The FAA just doesn't approve of that. They don't like that too much. Then we had another hat. This was an Adidas hat, strap back, blue with white logo. Just a regular old Adidas hat, sold for $12. I don't usually do very well on just a straight up Adidas hat or a Nike hat or something like that. Usually it has to be something a little more unusual to sell for me, but this one did, so hopefully that's a harbinger of things to come. Then we had the Practical English Chinese Dictionary from 1971, sold for $12. The Practical, much better than the Impractical Dictionary of Chinese English from 1972, which was organized by weight instead of alphabetical. Didn't work out so well, rather impractical. Then the next one we had The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy 25th Anniversary First Edition of the reissue, $12.50. This is a very confusing book because it's hard to find the date on it. It looks just like the original first edition of the book, and you have to really be careful. A lot of people online are selling this book as an original first edition when it's a 25th anniversary edition, because if I'm remembering right, this is back in May when I sold this, it doesn't say that anywhere except for maybe some fine print somewhere on the copyright page. So be careful if you're selling this one. But if you haven't read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, do yourself a favor and read The Hitchhiker's Guide. The next one is Stonewall Jackson and the American Civil War. I don't know why it makes me want to talk that way, but it did earlier in the night when I was taking some notes, and I thought that Stonewall Jackson should have a voice like this. And that sold for 1961, copy of Stonewall Jackson, sold for $13.50. This one, I believe this was a hat that sold, and I think I wore this one in a video, but the person who bought it for the asking price, the horribly astronomical asking price that I had put on the hat. This was the Guyana cap, red, yellow, and green with a flag strap. Sold for $15. So if it had been a viewer, I would have sold for $5. But I think I wore that in a video at some point. What's next? Oh, The Complete Course of Japanese Conversation by Oreste Vakari. Oreste Vakari is writing The Complete Course of Japanese Conversation. Kore o name wa Nihongo de wa arimasen. I'm sure somebody will correct me if that was not right. Okay, Ready, Aim, Fire, 0 to 100 million in no time flat, sold for $18. Rather dubious on that one, but somebody might have gotten rich with it. Oh, this is fun. This is from 1961, A March of Comics, Roy and Dale from Foley's department store. This is Roy Rogers, just a little child's giveaway thing from that Foley's would have given back in the 60s that I got at the Goodwill bins. It was still in really good condition, and it sold for $20. It was like maybe a 10-page little comic. So that was a good find. Medical Terminology and Anatomy for ICD-10 Coding by Betsy Shiland, sold for $20. Moving on, we have The Island Infernos, the U.S. Army's Pacific War Odyssey from 1944. This is a first edition, and it sold for $20 as well. Next, I found several books one time. With the Goodwill bins, it's interesting that you'll come across like somebody's donations, and there'll be a whole bunch of medical books, so there'll be a whole bunch of piloting books or hunting books or something. You can tell it's one person that donated all these. I came across about 8 or 10 books that all were owned by a senator here in Texas named John Culberson. He'd had his name written inside, owned by John Culberson. So I put that in the description, that it was owned by Texas Senator John Culberson, and this one sold. This was the German Catastrophe 1963 paperback, and owned by Texas Senator John Culberson, and it sold for $21.50. I don't think I marked up the price any because it was owned by Culberson. I don't think that was going to be that big of a draw, but I figured if anyone was wanting to buy it and they see that this one, and they're from Texas and they like the guy, then maybe they would want to buy this one. Maybe that's why it took so long to sell. Actually, they're like, that one is owned by John Culberson. I don't want it. But there was some other ones. I think there was some Ayn Rand books that were owned by him. So I think those are all still up for sale. Maybe I should change my listing. I don't know. All right, next I sold 2 of these books. They're each for $22.50. This is Unlocking English Learners, Strategies for Making Content Accessible. So at my work, we had a whole bunch of these books that we were throwing out, so I kept them, and we were no longer going to be using them at work, so I kept them and put them up for sale. So I've sold several of them, 2 of them in this month here for $22.50 each. Then we had the Atlas of Mars, put out by NASA in 1979, sold for $22.50. And this book was the SCI Record Book of Trophy Animals, edition 13, volume 1, South America, Europe, and Asia, sold for $30. I remember picking this one up because another bookseller had it in her cart, and she looked at it for a long time. I remember her just scanning, there wasn't a barcode on it, so she was looking up the inside, typing the stuff in, and I was just watching, waiting for her to finally toss it back in the bin. And as soon as she did, after quite a long time, I just went over and snatched it, and was able to look it up. And yeah, $30. So it was worth us scoping out the other buyers there for a little bit to pick that one up and sell it for $30. The next one is the 101 Labs or 101 Labs CompTIA A+, hands-on practical labs for the CompTIA A+ exams. Obviously, I have no idea what all that's about, but it sold for $30. All right. Then we're moving on up in the prices now, right? We still got several to go, and this next one is a $40 sale. This was some more of this graphic 45 steampunk debutante deluxe collection paper, stickers, and chipboard, kind of a arts and crafts thing, or scrapbooking supplies kind of a thing. But the steampunk stuff in this genre sells really well, and this one sold for $40. All right, the next one, Mosby's Exam Review for Computed Tomography by Daniel DeMaio. Sold for $48.50. Usually if there's a word in the title that I don't know what it means, I'm looking that sucker up. This was $50 for this one as a surprise. This weird fiction review. Just a fiction review, weird fiction review. Paperback book. It sold for $50. So if you see these, they look like they're just, something that wouldn't be worth much at all, and yet they are. So definitely find that one. All right, then this one took a long time to sell. I had this one for quite a while because it was not in very good condition. This is Syl Lebro or Lebrot. I'm not sure how Syl pronounces their name. Pleasure Beach, a book of photography, first edition of 1976. Sold for $50. Probably double that if it had been better condition. And I think I'd had it up there quite a bit higher for a while, and I kept lowering the price. and it finally did sell 50 bucks. There's also large books. It's kind of hard to ship. So I was glad to sell it, glad to get 50 bucks out of it, but it wasn't in real good condition. Then the next one was this one, the Cisco CCNP Preparation Library, 2nd edition. This is a box of books that I found. I can't remember how many books were in there, but there's a whole library, preparation library in there, and that sold for $65. All right, my last not a book. Quilter's Basket Pre-Cut Quilt Blocks for months 1 through 12. So for $76.50. Quilting stuff sells really well. Not quilting books. Like, if I find like books on quilting things, but supplies is what really does seem to sell pretty well. And then we have 2 more sales. We had Above the Falls and Historic Coteau by Patsy Barber, signed by Miss Patsy Barber. $100. Genealogy, local genealogy is one of the best sellers. Things that I have, they don't last long. Places you may never have heard of. Someone's looking, researching it, and looking for ancestors and things, and doing genealogy, and they're going to buy it from you because they can't find it online. You can't find it in the library. So you find a book like this, yeah, it's going to sell. And then the last one was one sale, but it was a sale of 23 books. These were, I had, again, when you're at the Goodwill bins, and you'll see a collection being thrown out, and I had a whole bunch of books from the same publisher. This was the Universidad Veracruzana, 1960s Spanish fiction. I believe they're all fiction books. And so I managed to pile up 23 of them. So I would have paid 50 cents each on those. So 24 would have been 12, so $11.50 on those. And it sold for $230. I put them at $10 a piece. Yeah, that was a really good sale there. So it was fun to collect those. They didn't sit for that long, and then to get them off the shelf and move them was a lot of fun as well. So that's my May, my first half of May. I'll get the second half of May right out to you soon. But in this time frame, we had 10 Nota books for $194.75, which came out to a $19.48 average, which I was going for right post World War II. I went with 1948, and I nailed it. I hit it on the nail, just right on the head. It was just perfect the way it worked out. So I was really happy to meet my $19.48 goal once again. The books, I had 22 for $846.30. Now, 22 sales. Obviously, one of those sales had 23 books in it. And so the average there was $38.47, which is well above my completely arbitrary and made up figure of $25 that I consider to be a good average for a sales period. So yeah, that's the books. That's the stuff. Let me tell you what happened to me. So last summer of this year, 2024, we were preparing for our trip to Japan. And so we went to the bank. My wife and I went to the bank. We are going to get a bunch of $100 bills. You know, we always like to get crisp $100 bills. I don't think it matters as much when you're going to Japan, but like I know in the past when we've gone to Vietnam, if the bills aren't crisp, they sometimes won't even take them. If they got a crease or a tear, they won't even take it. But if it's slightly creased, some places will just give you less in trade for it. So I don't think that's quite the issue in Japan, but we weren't sure. So we wanted to get some crisp hundreds to take with us to Japan. Pulled a bunch of money out of the bank, and when we were going through it, one of the bills was an older one, 1981 $100 bill, with the old picture, as the little portrait in the middle before they changed all the design of it. So I looked it up, and it's collectible. Just being an older $100 bill, it would sell for more than $100. So I kept that one out. It's like, well, might as well just put it up on eBay. Put it up for $125. And so that, when would that have been? In June or so. and it's been up for all this time. Well, it finally sold. $125 after the fees and after shipping. I was going to make $5 or $6, but you know, why not? And the person that bought it, I looked at the name and it looked familiar, and I did a little research on the address, and I'm pretty sure it's got to be the same guy, Anthony Scaramucci. You recognize the name? He was press secretary or something along those lines, communications director or something for ex-President Trump for like 10 days. And that 10-day period became known as a Scaramucci. He was, because it's such a short time he was in there. But that's who bought my $100 bill. And when I looked up the address, sure enough, it's right on and I think it's called End Street in New York City, on the water, like $1 million apartment overlooking the water. It looked beautiful. I thought it's got to be him with that name and that kind of a place. So I was pretty excited to sell something to the somewhat rich and famous. I can't find the $100 bill. There, somewhere in this room. Tell me if you see it. There is a $100 bill, possibly in a little bank note, like the envelope that you get from the bank. It's maybe smartly stuck in a book where I would definitely remember it so it doesn't get bent. Possibly in I've got these rigid envelopes that it could have been smartly placed in and then neatly tucked in between some books that I cannot find. But or my wife found it and forgot that I was keeping it and decided to spend it. She denies that, but it's also a possibility. I have no idea where the money is, so I had to cancel the order. I was very disappointed. He didn't respond. It was like on a Thursday when he ordered it. I couldn't find it, so by Saturday I messaged and said, I'm looking for it. I can't find it. If I can't find it by Monday, I'll cancel the order. Monday came. I still can't find this stinking thing I'm looking for right now. And so literally losing money to the rich and famous on eBay. I mean, I'm disappointed because it's a $100 sale, and now it's not like I lost a 50-cent book. It's $100. Yeah, I'm an idiot. So, word to the wise. If you're going to put something somewhere smart that you're absolutely sure not to forget because it's so smart, just write it down. Make a note of it. Tell someone. Something like that. So if you have any ideas of where it might be, let me know. That's all I got for today. Hope that everything's going well for y'all. Hope you're selling the heck out of a bunch of stuff. And you know what? I'll talk to you hopefully sooner rather than later. Adios.